Hello and welcome back to Dawn Chorus Writes, a Miraculous Ladybug fanfiction and audio fiction. This is the two-parter, Dearest You, and this is part 2, and it's written by Jheqia and narrated by Dawn, myself, hello, and it is part of Jheqia's Wednesday and part of With Love February season. And a massive shout out to Jade Carol for her beautiful, amazing artwork in the thumbnail. So make sure you go and send her some love. All her information is down below. Make sure you send Jheqia some love for writing it, and all her information is down below where you can catch her other stories. And send me some love by smashing that like button. Comment down below what you think of it, and since it is the final part, subscribe so you do not miss out on other treats coming your way very soon. And I hope you enjoy part 2. Dearest You. I know yesterday was a long day. You work so hard at so many things and you succeed at them all, but I hate seeing you so tired. I can't help but wonder if I could help somehow. How many people smile at you during these long days? How many hugs do you get? Do you have someone to talk to about everything and nothing? How often do you laugh, and what makes you smile? Do I ever cross your mind as some sweet or solemn thought? Does it brighten your day more than thoughts of others? Or am I just a smile in the background of your days? Someday, I hope I'll know you well enough to put answers to my curious thoughts. The one who loves you. Cat Noir stared down at the most recent love letter with a tender smile. Pressing it to his heart, he lay back against the slope of the roof. Oh, Marinette, he thought, his heart swelling within him. If only you knew how much you have already meant to me. So many memories swirled through his mind, dancing in the moonlight, her making him that hat for Christmas, giving him her lucky charm, her fighting for him to go to New York, her soft, nervous smile when she won the design competition, her running all over Paris with him to help him see his mother's movie, her being willing to go with him on his first date with Gagami. Wait. The thought felt more like a kick to the chest. If she is in love with me, how could she have been willing to see me date another girl? He groaned, anxiety settling like stones in his stomach once again. Why did it take me so long to figure this out? No wonder she thinks I don't see her. What's wrong, Cat Noir? Drink some sour milk? He jerked upright, shoving the pink card back into the zipper pocket of his suit. Ladybug had managed to sneak up behind him, and he hadn't even heard her. Boy, he was really out of it. Yes, something like that. Ready for patrol then? Or do you need to head home? She asked, a hint of concern in her bluebell eyes. I already did our patrols. She blinked in surprise. You did? But you hate going on patrol alone. What's up? He shrugged and shook his head, making his cat ears flap. Just thinking and needed to clear my head. He couldn't help the pink that crept into his cheeks, and he knew she saw it. Well, since you have already put in the work for us today, I'm here if you need to talk about it, she offered kindly. He sighed. I suppose it might help to get a girl's opinion, he replied tentatively, rubbing the back of his neck. Oh, sounds interesting. She sat down on the roof next to him, wrapping her arms around her knees. What about? First, could I ask you something? Sure. How did you know you were in love with your special boy? Cat. Her voice was resigned. I'm not digging, I promise. I'm still respecting your boundaries. I just want to know what it's like for someone else. She sighed, staring out at the city that was both their home and their battlefield. Well, he makes me feel like everything is great when he smiles, and that I will do anything I possibly can to change the world for him when he doesn't. He is my biggest distraction, and it is so easy for me to get lost in his eyes. I think I could easily just sit and do nothing with him all day if he wanted to, just so I could be beside him. She glanced over at him, and he saw a sad smile tug at her lips. Yeah, he said roughly, I thought so. The chill winter breeze whipped between them, the only sound for several minutes. How does she make you feel, Cat? He looked at her in surprise. How did you know? The sad smile became a crooked grin. The groan, the blush, the pink card sticking out of your pocket. Ladybug intuition, she shrugged. Take your pick. He hunched his shoulders and hung his head. She's a lot like you, but different too. She's bold and audacious, and she's always standing up for others and for what is right, but she is kind of shy and quiet too. She's really smart and talented and pretty, and her smile makes my whole day brighter. Cat looked down at the corner of the pink card sticking out of his pocket, a feeling of guilt washing over him. It just feels strange, I guess, he murmured. It's hard to let someone else into your heart, right? Like you fight for it for a long time and then suddenly it jumps out at you. What? Ladybug drawled. Like an Akuma? He shrugged. Her face contorted, twisting from serious to lopsided grin to full-blown laughter. Hey! He said, offended and shifting away from her. I'm dealing with conflict emotions here, and you're laughing at me? Sorry, Cat, she gasped between the giggles. It's just that you are comparing this girl of yours to an Akuma. That was you. She is not an Akuma, he grunted, crossing his arms and glaring at her. She's the sweetest, most thoughtful, amazing girl I know. She doesn't need a suit to be a hero, and she seems to really care about me, unlike some people. She stopped laughing, and a guilty flush discolored her face. She looked down at her fingers in her lap, twisting them in an habitual nervous action. It may not be the way you want, but I do care about you, Cat. More than you can ever know. Her voice was soft and sad, striking his heart with guilt of his own. He sighed and shifted next to her once more. I know, little bug. I didn't mean to bite your head off. I'm trying to move on. I really am, and this girl is amazing. I'm just afraid that if I try to court her, she'll push me away too, and I don't want to lose her friendship. She put a gentle arm around his shoulder and gave him a little squeeze. I hold it true. Whatever befall, I feel it when I sorrow most. It's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all. Cat looked at her with a raised eyebrow and a crooked grin. And Tennyson? Really? It seems to fit. She took his shoulders and turned towards him. I'll always be here for you, Cat. But if this girl makes you feel this way, you should go for it. You deserve so much happiness. If she is yours, then try. Don't base every girl off me. I'm a special kind of weird. She's so lucky to have you like her, Cat. Never sell yourself short, and I'm so sorry if I ever made you feel like you weren't good enough. She hugged him fiercely, hot tears splashing against his neck. He wrapped her in a tight hug and just barely heard her whisper, "I never deserved you, and I hope you have found someone who will make you truly happy. At least one of us should get a happy ending." "My lady." He felt tears in his own eyes, but he chuckled. "Do I need to find your special boy and knock him into next week? Maybe he'll ask you to be his Valentine, if I do." She released him in a hurry, shoving him off her with a mocked scowl. "Oh, sure, and Cat Noir beating up innocent civilians would be the next headline. Dark Cupid strikes back, the continuing tale," he quipped, spinning his own tale for emphasis. She rolled her eyes and followed it up with a half-angry glare. "Let's not go there, please." "Why not?" He leaned in, giving her a knowing look. "Jealous now that I have a girl who wants to kiss me?" He regretted them as soon as those words had left his mouth. He flushed bright red and covered his mouth with a gloved hand. She chuckled. "What's the matter? Got your own tongue?" "LB, I know this is probably the wrong thing to ask, but was did I..." Anxiety was choking off his voice. How could he even ask her that, given everything else that had gone on today? She propped one hand on her hip and a sympathetic smile on her face. "You were going to ask if I thought you were a good kisser, weren't you?" He nodded at her wide-eyed. "Was it just Ladybug, or did all girls have this weird mind-reading thing? Well, hopefully not Lila or Chloe." He only hoped Marinette could do it, either, or she might change her mind about liking him. Ladybug looked thoughtful for a moment. "I'm not the best person to ask, considering you were trying to kill me at the time, and I was trying to save you, not romance you." He groaned in defeat. "I didn't know it was possible for blushing to hurt so much." She patted him on the arm. "No, silly kitty. I just meant that you were fighting the kiss for most of it. Once you started kissing me back, I knew the spell was broken and stopped. But for what it was very nice. Does that help?" "Yeah, thanks," he muttered, rubbing the back of his neck, which he was sure had turned crimson, along with his cheeks and ears. She got to her feet and ruffled his hair. "Well, what are you waiting for? An invitation? Go and get her, tiger." He couldn't help but grin. "Thanks, LB. You're the best." He stood and readied his baton. "The offer still stands to knock some sense into that boy for you, m'lady." "Like you could ever figure out who he is, Cat Noir," she called, whipping off into the sky. Waiting through the weekend was torturous. Plague, that bottomless pit, teased him constantly, chasing him around his room, chanting, "She's just a friend, she's just a friend," over and over, and it took a whole wheel of Camembert to finally shut him up. Time crawled through his weekend lessons, his thoughts constantly returning to Marinette, her beautiful smile, her delicate fingers that always seemed busy, the way the sunlight shimmered off her hair in sapphire hues, and her expressive eyes. He daydreamed his way through another photo shoot, with only Vincent noticing anything odd, but he merely gave him a knowing look and set about taking pictures, humming happily. It was all Adrien could do to wait until Monday to see her again. "It's strange," he thought as he walked up the school steps, looking for any sign of her. "I always knew I liked Marinette, and I always felt better after spending time with her. I just never noticed it was different than how I felt about hanging out with Nino or Alya, but it was. Looking back on it, I always felt something different for her. All this time. I wish I had known this sooner." Nothing was going to stop him from talking to Marinette today. She was his lucky charm after all. Even his father's usual curt dismissal after dinner the night before hadn't fazed him. His world was now wrapped in a rosy glow, and the letter he found in his locker thrilled him to his fingertips. Dearest you, every day I wake up to you as if you were the sunrise. Like Icarus of old, I dong my wings to try to reach you once more. But the work of my hand fails me yet again. As I approach you, everything begins to melt. My wings, my words, my heart, and I crash to the ground yet again. With feelings I have longed to share unspoken on my lips. So I start again, to build my wings and my confidence anew, to try to reach my sunshine once more. For I would burn and crash and rise again 1,000 times just to feel the warmth of your smile and the light of your eyes. Oh, how I wish you shone for me, the one who loves you. This is like that crazy confession she practiced with Kat that day, he thought, his heart singing, but she put so much more of herself into it this time. This confirmed it. It had to be Marinette. Alya, her best friend, jokingly called him Sunshine. She was always stumbling, tripping and falling, her crashing and rising. She had told Kat about not being able to talk to Buttercup, and here she was writing to him since her words always failed her. His chest ached at the thought of her slaving over every line of each precious letter. I'm Buttercup! Dude, you look happy, Nino exclaimed from around the locker door. What happened? Your old man finally decided to grow a sense of humor? No, I'm gonna talk to Marinette today. Nino's mouth fell open. Okay, bro, what kind of talk? The kind that ends in a Valentine's date, or the kind that ends with ice cream and chick flicks? What's wrong with ice cream? His friend shook his head. Nothing, bro. It's just a girl thing. When a girl gets dumped or gets rejected, the girls' squad gets together to eat ice cream and watch chick flicks and commiserate. Oh, Adrien said quickly. The kind of talk that ends with a date, hopefully. Come on, you're Adrienette. Probably half the girls in the school have a crush on you. Asking her out will be a breeze. It's not that simple, Nino. Yep. He could feel the anxiety growing in his chest again. Remember when I asked Kagami to the ice rink? I had to ask Marinette for help and advice, and I even asked her to go with me so I wouldn't feel so awkward. That whole relationship was a failure on my part, and now I want to ask Marinette out. How am I supposed to do that? His voice had been getting louder and even cracked on the last word. Oh, that's simple. Kim sauntered over and leaned against the lockers. You just go to the girl and tell her she's awesome and you'd make a great duo. That may be a viable solution for you and our dame, Kim, Max said, coming over as well. But Marinette is both competitive and sensitive. Such a direct approach may have the reverse effect on a desired outcome. He pushed his glasses up further on his nose. I suggest writing her a Valentine's letter expressing your deepest respect and admiration. Oh, what about a flash mob? Kim punched the air excitedly. I've always wanted to be part of one of those. Everyone rolled their eyes. You could write her a song, Ivan said, smiling sweetly. Kitty's section could help. Or a poem, Nathaniel murmured, blushing red. Adrien shot him a grateful smile, knowing how the artist felt about Marinette. We could always see if we could get Ladybug to lock you in a closet with Marinette or something, Nino suggested. Everyone stared at him, shocked looks on every face. What? It worked for me and Alya. Did someone mention my name? Nino's locker slammed shut, and there was Lady Blogger herself. And what did I hear about Ladybug locking someone in a closet with Marinette? Gress here wants to ask her out, but doesn't know how to do it, Kim stated, looking smug. I think a flash mob would be cool. Adrien flushed as he met Alya's eyes, almost afraid of her response. She could get very protective of her best friend after all, but instead of getting angry or stern, Alya looked like Christmas had come round again. She clasped her hands and bounced up and down, eyes shining. Are you kidding me? He shook his head and gave a shrug. Yeah, I'm just kind of clueless about this kind of thing. The whole group burst out laughing, and Adrien had the distinct feeling that he was missing a well-known joke. What? She controlled her laughter and shook her head. Worry about that later. I've got this, sunshine. Meet me here before lunch and I'll fill you in. Me and the girls have got this. Then she turned on the rest of the boys with a stare that could catalysm steel. And if one of you so much as breathes a word of this to Marinette, I will personally make sure you regret it. Everyone but Kim nodded with wide eyes. The doctor snorted and rolled his eyes. Max looked up at his friend and sighed. Appropriate measures will be taken to ensure secrecy. Ivan nodded. Even if I have to sit on him. With a brisk nod, Alya dragged Nino out of the room, grinning like a maniac, leaving Adrien to wonder what had just happened. Which was how Adrien found himself waiting in the park after school, his bag holding 6 pink envelopes and his stomach full of butterflies. Alya had told him she and the girls would get Marinette to the park after school and that he should be there ready with anything he wanted to give or say to her. He had spent the whole day nervous, and every tap of Marinette's pencil, every rustle of paper, was enough to pull his heart towards her once more. He was sure he would get a bad grade for the day, but he had spent his spare moments between classes writing out some of his own thoughts. He wasn't as creative as Marinette was, nor poetic, but they were from the heart, and he hoped she would accept them and him. Settle down, kid. You'll do fine, Plag murmured from inside his coat collar. The little Kwame rubbed his face against Adrien's neck. Pigtails is worth it, isn't she? Of course she is, Plag, but that doesn't mean I'm not nervous. What's there to be nervous about? Anyone as sappy as you must be your soulmate. Ignoring his little friend, he paced nervously around the fountain, the same fountain where he and Marinette had hidden from the crazed fans after an embarrassing perfume ad. But then it had been empty for repairs, and now it was covered in a slick of ice with a curtain of icicles hanging around the rim. One time around, would she come? Would she hear him out? What if he was wrong and it wasn't Marinette? 2 times round. Would she still want him, even if she didn't write the notes? What could someone as sweet and kind and dependable see in someone like him anyway? He was always having to run off to some stupid photo shoot or extra lessons, and when he wasn't doing that, he was either stuck in his room or out saving Paris as Cat Noir. 3 times round. Had Marinette's declaration of love to Cat Noir just been a celebrity crush, or is this one too? 4 times round. No, those letters held no trace of self-centered or the typical fangirl stalker, insisting they were superficial, perfect for each other if he could only see it. Instead, they spoke of how she wanted to make him smile, hoping his day had gone well, noticing when he was tired and longing to help. 5 times round. Was this a good idea? If Alya's reaction was anything to go by, he thought he had a good chance, but still felt a nervous churning in his stomach. His chest ached with anticipation or dread. But what if he messed things up like he did with Kagami? 6th time round. No, Kagami and him had been too similar. They had been scrabbling for love and acceptance they couldn't find in their lives, but they never really opened up to each other much. Marinette had fought for him. She was so funny and sweet, and there she was, standing by the carousel that looked like a giant frosted cake in its coat of ice. Marinette was sketching in her ever-present pad. Her hair was down, brushing the shoulders of her pale pink wool coat, and set off with a chocolate brown scarf and a red knitted hat. She had taken her gloves off the drawer, and they dangled out of her pocket. She looks like a winter princess, all pink and warm and cozy. Oh, what am I going to say to her? His mouth was incredibly dry, and he gripped the straps of his messenger bag even tighter. Psst! He turned abruptly and saw Alya, phone out and probably recording, waving him on. Go! She hissed. You've got this! Adrien swallowed hard, squared his shoulders, and walked over to Marinette. She didn't hear him coming up behind her, too focused on her sketch. On impulse, he reached out and covered her eyes with his gloved hands. She stiffened and gave a nervous laugh. Oh, who is it? What words did he have that could compare to the outpouring of his heart she trusted him with? The words he had written in his own card seemed now too small, too paltry to offer her. He couldn't flirt like he did as Cat Noir, because she would recognize that immediately. Marinette wasn't Ladybug, and she didn't deserve casual flirting in a moment like this. He had to be honest with himself and with her. Blushing furiously, he leaned closer to her ear. Yours is the smile I look for every day, and I miss it when it isn't there, Marinette, he whispered. And you were right. I don't get many hugs. Hardly anyone talks to me about silly little things. You were the first person to make me laugh since Mother disappeared, and being around you always makes me smile. That is why I tried that silly prank at the wax museum that time. Nino had said something that made me think you didn't like me, and I couldn't bear the thought of not having you in my life. I wanted to make you feel good about being around me, but I blew it. Her shoulders were trembling against his. Adrien? You were never in the background, Marinette, he continued. You stand in a place all your own, full of smiles and sunshine. I see you, and you are so special to me. He sighed. I'm sorry it took so long for me to realize it. He leaned his forehead against the back of her head, breathing in the sweet scent of vanilla and hibiscus shampoo. And even if you fall, I will always be there to catch you. He released her then and took a step back, giving her space to react to his words. Her pencil and pad fell from her nervous fingers. Slowly she turned round, and the instant he caught her wide eyes, as blue as the autumn sky and as bright as the stars, he knew he was lost. He was the one falling hard into the horizon of her eyes, and didn't know how he would ever land. Do you mean it? She squeaked, her cheeks rosy from more than the cold. He took her hands in his and felt her icy fingers through his gloves. He cupped them in his and brought them to his mouth, playing his breath over them to warm her, smiling as the pink in her cheeks darkened. Every word. Did you? She stared at him, eyes nervous and smile shy, before nodding. I wanted you to be the one who wrote the letters, Marinette, even before I was sure. I wanted you to be the one who loved me. Adrien, she said softly, would you like to have some hot chocolate with me? I would love to, he grinned, his heart as light as air as he offered her his hand. I believe there was something in one of your letters about walking through the park holding hands. She bit her bottom lip and nodded, eyes shining. She wove her delicate fingers through his, and he brought her hand to his lips to press a small kiss to the back. Her smile was as wide as his. He bent to collect the pencil and sketch pad and gestured for her to lead the way. They turned together, heading for the bakery, when, a few steps along, she slipped on a patch of ice and started to slide. Reacting instantly, he pulled her around towards him. Her hands reached out for his coat lapels to steady herself, just as he wrapped his arms tight around her waist. "Sorry," she stammered, her eyes locked on his. He chuckled softly. "Didn't I say I would catch you?" He brushed a strand of hair behind one ear as an excuse to touch her face. "My beautiful Icarus?" Her rosy lips parted in a gasp that spoke more eloquently than even her letters had of the state of her heart. May I kiss you, Marinette?" She nodded. His lips met hers, and a wave of static sparks ran along his nerves. She was as warm and sweet as he could have dreamed, and she lit him up from the inside out. He could have stood there kissing her forever. Until the cold began to sting his burning cheeks. Pulling back reluctantly, he glanced up to see a light snow was falling. His heart was so full that he had to laugh. She joined him, and her giggles echoed like bells off the ice. They only stopped when out of breath, and they could only smile foolishly at each other with identical rosy cheeks. "So," Marinette said, biting the corner of her lip in a way that made him want to kiss her again. "Hot chocolate?" He took her hand in his once more. "And Marinette?" "Yeah?" "This is now my favorite dream." It was Valentine's Day, and Cat Noir and Ladybug had just finished the patrol. A light snow was falling, and he was excited about his plans for making cookies with Marinette that evening, leaving him giddy and frisking like an oversized kitten. "Remind me not to let you have caffeine before patrol again." Ladybug laughed as he pounced, cat-like, around the rooftop, chasing snow flurries. "This isn't caffeine, LB. This is what requited love looks like," he crowed, falling on his back and rolling in the freshly fallen snow for her amusement. "For cat boys, maybe," she said, clutching her sides from laughter. "I take it everything went well with that girl then." His grin was wide and probably slightly smug. "My girl, you mean? And yeah, everything is great." He folded his hands behind his head and sighed in contentment. "She's amazing, Ladybug. I don't think I've been this happy since I met you." "And she doesn't ask questions when you have to zip off after Nakuma?" "Nope. I have a valid excuse, of course, but she trusts me and just asks that I call her as soon as I can when the attack is over, so she knows I'm okay." "Cat, you didn't." "Of course not." He waved a hand at her with his eyes closed to cancel that thought. "I know I can't tell her I'm Cat Noir, but she's just like that. I told you, she's amazing." "And she makes you this happy?" I'm more than happy. She's hot chocolate kisses. That's what she is. He sighed again, thinking of his first date with Marinette. There had indeed been hot chocolate kisses and laughter and hugs, as if she had known exactly what he wanted and needed most in the world. And when she read his letter, happy tears had fallen from her beautiful eyes, even though all it said was, "I see you. Will you go out with me?" Hot chocolate kisses, she giggled again. That sounds sweet. Her tone was playful, and he glanced up at her with a smirk. You have no idea. What about you, LB? There is still an hour before my date, plenty of time for me to knock some sense into your light of love. You aren't the only one to get chocolate kisses, she said. Her grin was so wide it filled her face. The glow in her eyes and the faint blush on her cheeks was something to behold, and only a small part of his heart ached that it wasn't him who made her light up like that. For the most part, he was content and truly happy to know that Marinette loved him so much. Well, I'm happy for you, my lady. How do you explain ducking away from a Kuma tax? She shrugged. Same as you, I guess. Then, I guess we're both pretty lucky for a change, he said, standing up and brushed the melting snow from his hair and suit. Oh, I don't know about that, Ladybug replied. I think my boyfriend is a better kisser than you. As he whipped around to taunt her with what Marinette had said about his kisses, a large snowball hit him right in the open mouth. Spitting out a mouthful of snow, he gasped at his partner, who laughed so hard she actually fell off the roof. Whipping out her yo-yo to catch herself, Ladybug kept laughing at him as he shook the snow from his hair. Aww, poor kitty doesn't like the snow so much now, does he? Watch it, he growled playfully, a wide grin on his face as he gathered up his own snowball. My girlfriend might take offense at that. I bet you she could give you a run for your money, little bug. She stuck her tongue out at him and blew a raspberry. She'd have to catch me first, Cat Noir. He threw the snowball at her, smacking her on one of the spots on her stomach. Oh, come on, you're a walking target. Swinging target, she called. Say hi to your girlfriend for me. Yeah, right. He would need to leave for Marinette soon too, but he stood for a long moment, watching his partner swing off into the dusk. He was glad that it looked like things hadn't changed for them. That let the last bit of the tension ease away. Besides, he hadn't seen her so happy in a very long time. Things hadn't worked out as he had dreamed, but he was glad Ladybug had her happy ending too. She deserved it if anyone did. And I get mine too, he thought dreamily, as Marinette's sweet smile hovered in his mind. Slipping the staff from behind his back, he leapt off into the gathering gloom, following the new light in his heart towards the one who loved him. Thank you so much for listening to part 2 of the Dearest You. I hope you loved it and enjoyed it. It was so sweet and fluffy. And make sure you go and give Jheqia some love for writing it. Make sure you give me some love by smashing that like button. Comment down below what you thought of it. And make sure you subscribe so you do not miss out on future treats or the continuing series is happening. And I hope you are good, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.